Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Lucy, and today we're talking about 10 things to tell your allergist when you go see them. If you haven't watched my previous videos on how to pick an allergist, I will link it up there, and I suggest you watch that first before you watch this one. If you are a fan of watching videos on allergies or you've got allergies yourself, I'd love it if you could subscribe, and if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Right, let's get started. Number one, the first thing I would recommend is asking your allergist what you should do if you have an allergic reaction, or if it's for your child, what you should do for your child when they have an allergic reaction. I would want to be really clear after leaving the doctor on how to use my EpiPen, if your child needs an EpiPen or if you need an EpiPen, what allergies medication to give them, when to call 999, when to call 911, and they should give you a sheet with all of that information on it, and that can be quite helpful because you can then give it to other family members or schools or teachers or wherever your child is going, or whoever you need to give it to. If you work in an office, it might be helpful to give some of that information to your colleagues. Point number two, the next thing I'd want to ask is what testing they're going to do. So normally when you go see your allergist, they'll do the skin prick testing, and they should do a blood test as well, an IgE blood test, and sometimes they also do the oral food challenge. If you've watched any of my other videos, I've recommended the oral food challenge so much because it is so good. It really helps you to know whether you're actually allergic to something or whether you're not. And so I would definitely ask about that if they hasn't already suggested it, or he or she, whether your allergist is a male or female. Number three, I'd want to be really clear on whether you or your child is anaphylactic. So I would ask about that, ask how severely you think they're allergic to each item that they might be allergic to. I, for example, am anaphylactic to nuts, and my son is anaphylactic to egg, but he also then has some other allergies like wheat and dairy that we deal with differently. So I know, for example, if he's had wheat, I might just reach for Piriton, whereas if he's had egg, I would have my EpiPen nearby in case I need to use it. And you want to be able to leave knowing, okay, I need to do this if this happens, need to do that if that happens, just having some really clear guidance on what to do. On that point, I would also say it's really helpful to know whether other people can eat that allergen around your child. So I would ask the doctor about that and say, hey, do you think nuts can be eaten around him or her, or whatever the question is. Number four, my next one is, what antihistamine would you recommend giving? So medicine changes all the time, and it might be that there's a new antihistamine that's out that he recommends. I currently use Piriton. I think it works really, really well for myself and my son, but there might be something else that he recommends, so I would ask about that. Okay, number five. This one I would prepare in advance before you go. I'd write down everything that you think your child is allergic to and what kind of reactions they have, and I'd make sure I'd cover that. I'd say, hey, he's having this reaction when he eats this. So like, for example, I said when my son eats tomato, he gets a little rash around his mouth. Should I be worried about that? And I actually found it's just a rash and nothing to worry about for him. But I would definitely mention each thing that happens when you eat a certain thing, and you may or may not use it, but what you don't want to do is get to the doctors or come home and then wish that you had said, oh, what about this one, or what about this? So write down a list of everything you're allergic to, or you think you're allergic to, and what symptoms occurs. Number six, and this was something that I did, I wrote down all the things that I was like particularly worried about, whether it be like going to the playground and going to stuff like that, and I would just discuss it with your doctor. What I would say is, I've personally found, and I've been to a lot of allergists, that they weren't particularly helpful on like, how do I manage other kids at the playground, how do I manage, eating egg around him, stuff like that. And I think, they haven't got that life experience that you have got, and so I would ask questions, and if they're helpful you can take them, but I'd also be aware that they don't have kids. They don't know. The two allergists that I saw, they don't have kids that are allergic to things, and so they don't really understand it from a parent's perspective. So I think it is worth just keeping that in mind when you're seeing them. Number seven, however, I would ask whether they've got any specific advice. If your child's at school age and you have a child that's allergic, just ask specifically about schools. Is there a leaflet or a document that you can give to the schools For example, if your child's allergic to anaphylactic to peanuts, it might be that actually the whole class needs to not have peanuts or not bring peanuts into the school. And there are a lot of schools out there nowadays that do, you know, peanut-free schools or peanut-free classrooms. So I remember a long time ago, when I was at school, they did do peanut-free, and that was really helpful for me, and I think probably for my mum felt really reassuring. Okay, point number 8. If you are like my son, who has multiple food allergies, and it's meant that he can't have things like dairy or some grains or nuts or things like that, I would definitely ask to be referred to a nutritionist, just to have somebody to talk through what is helpful and what making sure that he's eating a balanced diet and making sure that he's getting all the nutrients that he needs. I did that with Ollie, and it was so helpful, and actually she recommended trying some things and recommended some recipes that were really fantastic. And I will at some point make a video on some really helpful recipes for allergy friendly recipes, but I haven't made that yet, but it will come soon. Point number 9. This is a whole point in itself, because if you've followed me for any length of time, you will know how much I love the oral food challenge. It is a fantastic tool that the allergists have created, and basically what it is, and it sounds very simple, but it's really, for us, it was really life-changing. If there's a food that you're not sure whether your child is allergic to, and maybe you're convinced that he's allergic, but your allergist is like, hey, I think he might not be allergic to it, what they do is you bring you into the hospital for the day, and you get fed a very large quantity. So I think my son, who was 18 months, had to eat 6 or 7 cherry tomatoes because we thought he was allergic to tomatoes. You have to eat a lot of that thing, and they monitor you throughout the day. And it turned out for me that Ollie wasn't allergic to tomatoes, which was a big bonus, because we love, you know, pasta sauce and all those sorts of things, and tomatoes is a big part of the food that I like. So it was really helpful, and we are doing, in a couple of months' time, we're doing an almond food challenge, which I'm also really excited about, because I'm allergic to all nuts apart from almond, but Ollie came up positive for almond. So we are going to see whether almond is a safe nut for him, and if it is, we'll be able to reintroduce it, which will be fantastic. Number 10, and this point is by far one of the most helpful points. Ask them what you can do to prevent food allergies. So when we went to see the allergist the first time at about 8 months old, he recommended giving peanuts twice a week for the first 6 months of his life, and we did that religiously. So I couldn't do it, but my husband would twice a week give Ollie peanuts, cashew nuts, hazelnuts, like every single nut. And it's now meant that Ollie is not allergic to nuts. Because he's had them so regularly, he is completely fine eating nuts, which I am just so grateful for, because living with a nut allergy is a bit of a pain, and I didn't want him to live with an egg allergy, a wheat allergy, and a nut allergy, and a dairy allergy. So there are things that you can do to prevent allergies, and so I'd ask your doctor if they recommend anything, and you can also follow my suggestion here, but talk to your doctor about it. So anyway, that's it. That's all my 10 tips. I hope you find them helpful, and let me know if you've got any tips down below, or if there's anything that you have asked your doctor or your doctor's told you that is really helpful. Do share it, because I'd love to hear. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching.